Skynet is where we were talking about now, brought up the whole AI thing. And I've had a burr under my saddle on that subject for a long time, in particular, the last year. I've been developing an entire business model around taking this stuff um, and doing something actually productive with it. Because as I've got in the title on the show, hyperbole, or is it hyperbole and hype and sex and sizzle? This stuff is just gotten way out of hand, and it's gotten used, abused, and in the typical geek fashion. And I are a geezer geek actually, and I've been around this tech stuff for over 40 years, and I've seen all of it come through from the personal to the commercial, all of the development stuff. And at the end of the day, it's all just ones and zeros, and it's a matter of how they've captured those and then what they do with them. It's always a status state of information. Chat GPT, any of the versions, and currently the 4, and now they're talking about 5 coming around the corner. It has limited amounts of data. Chat GPT 4 only has data that's current up through April of this year. So anything new that's happened is not going to be included in any of your searching that you're going to do, looking for writings or doing some kind of deep dive on history or creating music or creating art. It's all just pattern recognition of existing information. That's all it is. And you cannot create the sentience, meaning self-awareness, in a non-organic organism. Our science and the physics that we have today are not capable of sorting that out and making it happen. So the whole concept of looking at Minority Report meets Oblivion or Terminator, our science, the way that we look at things, it's not possible with that model. It's mechanistic and it's materialistic, and it, as I said earlier, it's looking in the wrong place for the wrong things for the wrong reasons. And that's just the way our science is, the way it's constructed. So being able to have curiosity, intention, imagination, any of that is not something that's programmable. One of the most important reasons it's not programmable is because science can't explain them. Science does not have a grasp on what consciousness is. In all sciences, it's known as the hard problem, because the famous observer effect is what causes all the problems that everybody has. As soon as an observer is introduced into an experiment, into any kind of motion, it changes the experiment. And they can't explain that, but they can clearly observe it. And observation requires consciousness. So one of the other aspects of this whole intelligence, which it's not, but this whole idea of really what it's doing, it's a big data scrape of existing information. That's all it does. And it has no memory. Would you ask Chat GPT or an AI system to do today, it's not going to remember it tomorrow. In fact, you can take a question and a prompt that you put in it today, use the same one tomorrow, you're going to get a different answer. And it's not going to say, oh, is that like the one you did yesterday? No, it doesn't do that. That takes cognitive mentition. That takes the ability to formulate some kind of abstract connection of different things and ideas from a thought, and then to put that thought into a data scouring and interrogation system. Can't do it. The science won't let it happen. Science doesn't understand consciousness, so they can't program something they don't understand. They can take different characteristics of what are expressions and habits and natures of consciousness, but they can't manifest it. They can't put it in a machine. You can put a machine on organics, but you can't put organics on a machine. The mind-machine interface is the closest thing that a machine will ever experience as it relates to any kind of cognitive capability, self-awareness that we have. Our science ain't there. Now, maybe somebody else's is. Maybe it is out there. It's not to say that it can't be. But our current state of meat sackness is, and the way we look at things and frame the world around us with the metrics and the matrix that has been concocted, excludes all of those things. It acknowledges they exist, but it has no definition. It has no explanation. For those of you that may be aware of Lex Friedman, if you're not, highly recommend his shows and his podcasts. He just did one with Lee Cronin, who is a chemist. And it's fascinating because he goes through the whole idea of what this AI really is and how all of the fallacies that are used by the people that are pushing this. Cliff High is another one that does just phenomenal work on. He's another geezer geek like me. I think he's 4 years older than I am, but he's been programming. He wrote the WebBots, the asymmetric linguistic trends analysis, which starting back in the early or late 1990s and into 2000 was scouring all of the data that was available on the internet and trying to use emotive scales on the language being used. And his whole premise is that the human, the consciousness, is naturally psychic, which the remote viewers and those of us that are pursuing understanding consciousness all believe. Psychic capabilities, clairvoyance, telekinesis even, non-local consciousness. Those are all a part of the consciousness that we use to experience our reality. But you can't, the bridge between the Ethereum and the Materium, God, where's Sarah when I need her, is not something that can happen in the physics and the way that we describe the world around us now. It isn't modeled in quantum physics or quantum mechanics, theories, any of that. In fact, the whole entanglement thing is, while they mathematically say that can probably happen, they sure as hell can't figure out why, and they don't know. And it defies a whole bunch of constants like the speed of light. Non-locality is instant. There is no light speed involved. Can't explain that. How does that happen? So, one of the things that I want to share with you guys is, this is my website, System X Technologies. It should be up there. Yes. So this is where I'm working on the tokenization, what I call assisted intelligence, not artificial intelligence, which is really what this stuff is. Artificial is a wrong word. Large language models is just the latest version of big data that we used back in the 90s. What I'm doing is taking all the latest tech and reframing all of the stuff that I built for the last 30 years and using the fundamental concept of data and information. This comes from my Informatica model, which is my view on reality. It's Informatica, the metrics and the matrix. And it basically says that everything is information. So if everything is information, well, where is it? How do you get it? How do you access it and analyze it, adapt it, adopt it, whatever you may do with that information? And the information is all over the place. And as Niall said on the show, that the speculation around it is just, it's all over the place. And that's a good thing, because that's where curiosity and an imagination and having a propensity to pursue comes into play. That's when all of it becomes really good. But taking that whole abstract construct that happens within our minds, which is not our brains, and our mind is our consciousness, in that Ethereum where there is no speed of light, there are no constants, there isn't anything that we use to define the physical world we're in. It's a whole nother realm of being, of knowledge, of what we call physics. It's a whole nother construct. But the most important thing is that it's all information. And the biggest thing that's going on right now that people aren't talking about is what they call blockchain, or distributed ledger technology. It captures all that information and it stores it in perpetuity, and it locks it down, and it's secure just by nature of the way it's designed. And the easiest way to think about this is that it's a spreadsheet. Back to Lotus 123 and Symphony and all those back in the 80s and 90s. It's just a spreadsheet record. Okay. So I'm going to show you this video that I've got on my site. It's a 6-minute video, and it explains tokenization, which is what the records on a blockchain are. They become tokens because they have a unique identity that's encrypted. So it's always, that's why blockchains have never been hacked, and blockchains are why cryptocurrencies exist. You wouldn't have a cryptocurrency unless it had a secure capability that's trustless, auditable, immutable, a record of information. That concept is what's changed everything. And it's not being used right now in any of this AI stuff. But let me play this, and let's see what you guys think.
The concept of tokenization.
Oh. Sorry about that.
Over time, opportunities develop to also trade shares and goods.
One of the things I want to make sure that is understood here, because what they just talked about is one of the things. This is a recent short documentary that's come out. A piece of it is they use the concept of barter, and I've been preaching on that on the Informatica piece for a few years now. But basically, barter is when we used to, before there was currencies and organized groups of people that had to exchange value with something common and easy to carry. We just exchanged one-to-one. You have something, you have chickens and I have pigs. Between the two of us, we agree on the quantity and we make the transaction, and it's done. That one-to-one ability to agree on the exchange of value and what that value means between the two parties is, right now, our system is so convoluted, so complex, and so corrupt that none of that can happen. There's intermediaries all over the place, introducing friction to the process, introducing additional cost, inefficiency, etc. I mean, it's crazy. This blockchain model, which is what the tokens are based on, you always hear about the cryptos, but you don't hear about the technology. Same thing I was going on about with AI earlier. You always hear about the wonderful, crazy shit that AI does, but nobody talks about how it actually works and what some real good applications of it could be. And that's what I'm trying to do with my SysX model. So I wanted to jump in and just make sure that was clear, because it's a very fundamental component, an important component of what this new model is. It's taking all the tech, and if you think about it, everything we do right now is electronic on a database somewhere, but it's just scattered all over the place. This is what enables the individual control and sovereignty over your data. One of the shows I did, last shows I did back in 2020 was Your ID is your currency, what your identity is. And that's what we are seeing now. The key is being able to have your individual control over that, not having it centralized, but having it secure and immutable in a place where you have control over it. And then you let it out into the system when the system and you navigating through the system requires it. You have control over that. So that's what this is about. Let me just continue this here.
Form that
Well, that was quite fascinating. I got a email from YouTube saying that my live stream is interrupted because of a copyright strike. It must be for that piece of that, or they got the sound off of that video. So that's why I feel, Guy, you didn't get the last 4 minutes. So basically, the whole idea, and I can actually show it here. If you go to sysxtech.com, you can get a real quick primer of what all this means. But the key is the fact that having the sovereignty and provenance over your own information can only be done with this technology. And our entire world we're in the technology industrialization of the planet. It used to be just the US and a few countries across the pond, but it's all over the world now. And these things are incredibly important because they are about what's about to happen. The key is that it's not going to be, I'm going to have to restream here, am I? Hold on here. Stream unavailable. Suspended policy. Let's see if well, okay for them. I'm going to end the stream and restart it. Let's see what happens.